Part 2. The Doctrine Behind the Veil. Section 1. The Tarot and Secret Tradition. The tarot embodies symbolical presentations of universal ideas behind which lie all the implicits of the human mind, and it is in this sense that they contain secret doctrine, which is the realization by the few of truths embedded in the consciousness of all, though they have not passed into express recognition by ordinary men. The theory is that this doctrine has always existed, that is to say, has been excogitated in the consciousness of an elect minority, that it has been perpetuated in secrecy from one to another and has been recorded in secret literatures, like those of alchemy and Kabbalism, that it is contained also in those instituted mysteries of which Rosicrucianism offers an example near to our hand in the past, and craft masonry a living summary, or general memorial, for those who can interpret its real meaning. Behind the secret doctrine, it is held that there is an experience or practice by which the doctrine is justified. It is obvious that in a handbook like the present, I can do little more than state the claims, which, however, have been discussed at length in several of my other writings, while it is designed to treat two of its more important phases in books devoted to the secret tradition in Freemasonry and in Hermetic literature. As regards tarot claims, it should be remembered that some considerable part of the imputed secret doctrine has been presented in the pictorial emblems of alchemy, so that the imputed Book of Thoth is in no sense a solitary device of this emblematic kind. Now, alchemy had two branches, as I have explained fully elsewhere, and the pictorial emblems which I have mentioned are common to both divisions. Its material side is represented in the strange symbolism of the Mutus Liber, printed in the great folios of Mangetus. There, the process for the performance of the great work of transmutation is depicted in 14 copper plate engravings which exhibit the different stages of the matter in the various chemical vessels. Above these vessels there are mythological, planetary, solar, and lunar symbols, as if the powers and virtues which, according to Hermetic teaching, preside over the development and perfection of the metallic kingdom were intervening actively to assist the two operators who are toiling below. The operators, curiously enough, are male and female. The spiritual side of alchemy is set forth in the much stranger emblems of the Book of Lambspring, and of this I have already given a preliminary interpretation, to which the reader may be referred. The tract contains the mystery of what is called the mystical or archnatural elixir, being the marriage of the soul and the spirit in the body of the adept philosopher, and the transmutation of the body as the physical result of this marriage. I have never met with more curious intimations than in this one little work. It may be mentioned as a point of fact that both tracts are very much later in time than the latest date that could be assigned to the general distribution of tarot cards in Europe by the most drastic form of criticism. They belong respectively to the end of the 17th and 16th centuries. As I am not drawing here on the font of imagination to refresh that of fact and experience, I do not suggest that the tarot set the example of expressing secret doctrine in pictures and that it was followed by Hermetic writers. But it is noticeable that it is perhaps the earliest example of this art. It is also most Catholic because it is not, by attribution or otherwise, a derivative of any one school or literature of occultism. It is not of alchemy or Kabbalism or astrology or ceremonial magic, but, as I have said, it is the presentation of universal ideas by means of universal types, and it is in the combination of these types, if anywhere, that it presents secret doctrine. That combination may, ex hypothesi, reside in the numbered sequence of its series or in their fortuitous assemblage by shuffling, cutting and dealing, as in ordinary games of chance played with cards. Two writers have adopted the first view without prejudice to the second, and I shall do well, perhaps, to dispose at once of what they have said. Mr. MacGregor Mathers, who once published a pamphlet on the tarot, which was in the main devoted to fortune-telling, suggested that the 22 trumps major could be constructed, following their numerical order, into what he called a connected sentence. It was, in fact, the heads of a moral thesis on the human will, its enlightenment by science, represented by the magician, its manifestation by action, a significance attributed to the high priestess, its realization, the empress, in deeds of mercy and beneficence, which qualities were allocated to the emperor. He spoke also in the familiar conventional matter of prudence, fortitude, sacrifice, hope, and ultimate happiness. But if this were the message of the cards, it is certain that there would be no excuse for publishing them at this day, or taking the pains to elucidate them at some length. In his Tarot of the Bohemians, a work written with zeal and enthusiasm, sparing no pains of thought or research within its particular lines, but unfortunately without real insight, Dr. Pappas has given a singularly elaborate scheme of the trumps major. It depends, like that of Mr. Mathers, from their numerical sequence, but exhibits their interrelation in the divine world, the macrocosm and microcosm. In this manner, we get, as it were, a spiritual history of man, or of the soul coming out from the eternal, passing into the darkness of the material body and returning to the height. I think that the author is here within a measurable distance of the right track, and his views are to this extent informing, but his method, in some respects, confuses the issue and the modes and planes of being. The trumps major have also been treated in the alternative method which I have mentioned, and Grand Orient, in his Manual of Cartomancy, under the guise of a mode of transcendental divination, has really offered the result of certain illustrative readings of the cards when arranged as the result of a fortuitous combination by means of shuffling and dealing. The use of divinatory methods with whatsoever intention and for whatever purpose carries with it two suggestions. It may be thought that the deeper meanings are imputed rather than real, but this is disposed of by the fact of certain cards, like the Magician, the High Priestess, the Wheel of Fortune, the Hangman, the Tower, or Maison Dieu, and several others, which do not correspond to conditions of life, arts, sciences, virtues, or the other subjects contained in the denaries of the Baldini emblematic figures. They are also proof positive that obvious and natural moralities cannot explain the sequence. Such cards testify concerning themselves after another manner, and although the state in which I have left the tarot in respect of its historical side is so much the more difficult as it is so much the more open, they indicate the real subject matter with which we are concerned. The methods shew also that the trumps major at least have been adapted to fortune-telling rather than belong thereto. The common divinatory meanings which will be given in the third part are largely arbitrary attributions, or the product of secondary and uninstructed intuition, or at the very most they belong to the subject on a lower plane, apart from the original intention. If the tarot were a fortune-telling in the root matter thereof, we should have to look in very strange places for the motive which devised it, to witchcraft and the Black Sabbath, rather than any secret doctrine. The two classes of significance which are attached to the tarot in the superior and inferior worlds, and the fact that no occult or other writer has attempted to assign anything but a divinatory meaning to the minor arcana, justify in yet another manner the hypothesis that the two series do not belong to one another. It is possible that their marriage was effected first in the Tarot Bologna by that Prince of Pisa whom I have mentioned in the first part. It is said that his device obtained for him public recognition and reward from the city of his adoption, which would scarcely have been possible, even in those fantastic days, for the production of a tarot which only omitted a few of the small cards. But as we are dealing with a question of fact which has to be accounted for somehow, it is conceivable that a sensation might have been created by a combination of the minor and gambling cards with a philosophical set, and by the adaptation of both to a game of chance. Afterwards, it would have been further adapted to that other game of chance, which is called fortune-telling. It should be understood here that I am not denying the possibility of divination, but I take exception as a mystic to the dedications which bring people into these paths, as if they had any relation to the mystic quest. The tarot cards, which are issued with a small edition of the present work, that is to say, with a key to the tarot, have been drawn and colored by Miss Pamela Colman Smith, and will, I think, be regarded as very striking and beautiful in their design alike and execution. They are reproduced in the present enlarged edition of the key as a means of reference to the text. They differ in many important respects from the conventional archaisms of the past and from the wretched products of colportage which now reach us from Italy, and it remains for me to justify their variations as far as the symbolism is concerned. That for once in modern times I present a pack which is the work of an artist does not, I presume, call for apology, even to the people, if any remain among us, who used to be described and to call themselves very occult. If anyone will look at the gorgeous tarot valet or knave who is emblazoned on one of the page plates of Chatto's facts and speculations concerning the history of playing cards, he will know that Italy in the old days produced some splendid packs. I could only wish that it had been possible to issue the restored and rectified cards in the same style and size. Such a course would have done fuller justice to the designs, but the result would have proved unmanageable for those practical purposes which are connected with cards and for which allowance must be made, whatever my views thereon. For the variations in the symbolism by which the designs have been effected, I alone am responsible. In respect to the major arcana, they are sure to occasion criticism among students, actual and imputed. I wish therefore to say, within the reserves of courtesy and la haute convenance belonging to the fellowship of research, that I care nothing utterly for any view that may find expression. There is a secret tradition concerning the tarot, as well as a secret doctrine contained therein. I have followed some part of it without exceeding the limits which are drawn about matters of this kind and belong to the laws of honor. This tradition has two parts, and as one of them has passed into writing, it seems to follow that it may be betrayed at any moment, which will not signify, because the second, as I have intimated, has not so passed at present, and is held by very few indeed. The purveyors of spurious copy and the traffickers in stolen goods may take note of this point, if they please. I ask, moreover, to be distinguished from 2 or 3 writers in recent times who have thought fit to hint that they could say a good deal more if they liked, for we do not speak the same language, but also from anyone who now or hereafter may say that she or he will tell all, because they have only the accidents and not the essentials necessary for such disclosure. If I have followed on my part the counsel of Robert Burns by keeping something to myself, which I quote-unquote scarcely tell to any, I have still said as much as I can. It is a truth after its own manner, and as much as may be expected or required in those outer circles where the qualifications of special research cannot be expected. In regard to the minor arcana, they are the first in modern, but not in all times, to be accompanied by pictures, in addition to what is called the pips. That is to say, the devices belonging to the numbers of the various suits. These pictures respond to the divinatory meanings which have been drawn from many sources. To sum up, therefore, the present division of this key is devoted to the trumps major. It elucidates their symbols in respect of the higher intention and with reference to the designs in the pack. The third division will give the divinatory significance in respect to the 78 tarot cards and with particular reference to the designs of the minor arcana. It will give, in fine, some modes of use for those who require them, and the sense of the reason which I have already explained in the preface. That which hereinafter follows should be taken, for purposes of comparison, in connection with a general description of the old tarot trumps in the first part. There it will be seen that the 0 card of the Fool is allocated, as it always is, to the place which makes it equivalent to the number 21. The arrangement is ridiculous on the surface, which does not much signify, but it is also wrong on the symbolism, nor does this fare better when it is made to replace the 22nd point of the sequence. Atea recognized the difficulties of both attributions, but he only made bad worse by allocating the Fool to the place which is usually occupied by the Ace of Pentacles as the last of the whole tarot series. This rearrangement has been followed by Pappas recently in Le Tarot Divinatoire, where the confusion is of no consequence, as the findings of fortune-telling depend upon fortuitous positions and not upon a central place in the general sequence of cards. I have seen yet another allocation of the 0 symbol, which no doubt obtains in certain cases, but it fails on the highest planes, and for our present requirements, it would be idle to carry the examination further.